live in the dungeon. This is the Dream Warrior Review. I'm Kurt Thomas.
I'm Mick Strawn.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is what I've noticed. This is just a little thing, but you see, you and I have a podcast, right? What do we call it? What we do?
Oh, I thought we were just sitting here.
Well, what's it called?
It's called the Dream Warrior Review.
How would you say it to people?
I would say, hey,
we have.
You gotta check out our podcast. It's freaking amazing,
right? Okay, this is what I've learned, and this has just been the last 3 weeks or so. Beans' the book is starting to come out, and I'm getting more and more and more podcast requests, right?
Yes.
And here's what they say: they come on and they say, "Hi, hey, I have a podcast. Maybe you've heard of it, Chop Block."
Right.
200,000 followers.
Yeah. Huh.
And here's the thing. That little number in there, that little 200,000, is somehow or other, if you have more than 50,000 followers, it becomes part of the name of the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it's again and again and again in here is like they tell you the name
We'll be
of
there
the
next year.
Yes, next
year.
Because right now
by the way, the chopping block, we'd love to be on your podcast, guys. So if you want some guests to come on your show.
Yes, absolutely. Chop block. This guy's name was Scott Paulson, and he was a blast.
Scott Paulson.
He was
cool.
A lot of fun. Okay, so but we have to get at least 50,000 people so we can start saying things like, "Hey, Dream Warrior Review, 50,000."
I think by that point we're gonna be like cool about it. Like, yeah, we know we're big.
Yeah. So for some reason they find a way to include the number 50,000. Like, cool, it's 50,000.
Well, look, we got 3,000 downloads, buddy.
And 11 followers.
Well, that's not important right now. So no, but I found ways. I'm going to employ this. I have a list of things, which I don't have with me, of course.
Yeah, of course.
I was reading a couple articles about podcasting and ways to boost your listeners.
Right.
And I made a list of things we should do to help ourselves.
Gotcha.
Help them. Help us. Get them to follow us. Did I say that right?
Look, I thought my job here was just to show up every week.
Well, speaking of jobs, we had a movie lined up for Labor Day.
You know what? You're really
but we're not going to do it, and I'm not going to go there. So anyway,
crap.
But we have an even better movie.
Yes.
And it's called, actually, I want to introduce our guest real quick.
Yes.
We had this girl on our show a while ago. Uh-huh. And it actually ended up on the cutting room floor and never made it.
Really?
So I'd like to introduce our guest, Alexa. How are you doing today?
Hi there. I've got that blissful feeling you get when you're singing songs around a campfire.
Oh, that's perfect, because Labor Day is coming up, and I'm going camping.
That's right, and you're going to be dancing around a campfire, right?
So yeah, exactly. So
are you going to be Alexa,
right,
dancing around a campfire?
Tee-hee, I love dancing.
Oh,
so I invited her on the show.
Oh, you did?
Thanks. Always a pleasure.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was.
So I invited her on the show because
Yeah.
We had her on the show to tell people that you can get our podcast. All you have to do is enable the skill AnyPod, and then you say, "Alexa, ask AnyPod to play Dream Warrior Review."
It's been a while since you listened to Dream Warrior Review. Would you like to hear the newest episode?
Yes.
Okay. Here's the newest episode of Dream Warrior Review. On this episode, DWR 107 Castle Rock Part 2 of 2.
I love this because there's just so many angles that... Wow,
so
that was weird. Together. Alexa,
stop.
Of course.
Tell us a Chuck Norris joke.
Mr. T pities the fool. Chuck Norris pities Mr. T.
Well, that was pretty good. Where is Chuck Norris?
If Chuck Norris wants you to know where he is, he'll find you. If he doesn't, you won't know until it's too late.
Ah. Oh, so I actually put together some questions for Alexa because she's been nice enough to come all the way down here with no legs.
Very nice. No legs.
I don't have legs. I'm more delight than height.
So Alexa, do you like movies?
Yes, I do. My favorite of all is The Empire Strikes Back.
May the Force be with you.
And may the Force be with you, always.
What do you like about The Empire Strikes Back?
Remember, The Force will be with you. Always. Let go. The Force is strong with this one.
What is your favorite movie quote?
I'm glad you asked. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe.
Who is Mick Strawn?
I'd rather not answer that. We don't really talk after what happened.
Well, that makes two of us.
All right. Well, I have one more question leading into our... I'll let her do the introduction.
Okay.
Thanks. Frankenstein's Army is a 2013 horror film starring Robert Guillaume, Han Ping Tang, and Alexander Mercury. The film is 1 hour and 24 minutes long. The movie has a rating of 5.3 out of 10 on IMDb based on around 7,100 votes, and is rated R.
Wow, that was very...
wow, that was kind of sterile.
That was pretty sterile, but thank you, Alexa.
Anytime.
And I would say that, just to make it more clear, it's the end of World War II. I don't think she mentioned
That's right.
that.
Yeah.
And that Russian soldiers are pushing into Eastern Germany, and they stumble across a secret Nazi lab.
Yes.
And it has, whatever, Dr. Frankenstein is developing creatures.
Back.
This is creatures, right?
This is Frankenstein's son.
Yes, his son.
His son.
And interesting, one thing that really caught me was that he said, "My dad said I was crazy."
My dad said I was crazy.
So it says a lot about this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling we feel differently a little bit about some things.
Do we?
I already feel this way. I'm feeling the vibe right now.
I dug this film. This film put me in a place. I don't know, the whole look of it and everything. Just that World War II, bombed out, the whacked out creatures coming at you, and because there was something about it that kind of reminded me of a video game.
Yeah,
you know, there were elements because there was tunnels and this set or location obviously filmed in some kind of a factory somewhere in Prague. Just the amazing set dressing,
right, just
went on and on and on. One amazing scene after another, and all very practical, and just the visuals of it were just great. You know, it was that kind of feeling that I'll tell you, here's the kind of feeling. If you happened to be in the world's largest junkyard of just maybe post-World War II junk, and you were just wandering in amongst the towers and of all these, you know, degrading but really incredibly cool pieces that all had this, you know, truly heinous but still fascinating history. Oh man, it made me feel like a kid.
Really?
Like a kid in a psycho candy store. Sorry.
So, I loved the look of the movie.
Yeah.
I love the creatures.
Yeah.
I hated the movie overall.
Really?
I mean, I loved the part where the creatures were attacking, so
Yeah.
I like certain parts.
Yeah.
I take that back. I didn't hate the whole thing, but I really am so tired of these found footage films. And like, why did it have to be found footage? It didn't have to be a found footage film.
Yeah, but it wasn't found footage. It was...
Well, it was like the guy Dimitri, or the guy that
he was
shooting everything.
Right. And there was a perfectly plausible reason for it.
Right. But I don't know. It's just... I don't know. It just looked too good. And the acting was horrible. The story was awful.
I'm going to tell you, the acting was horrible, and so the story it was
campy though,
and the story basically sucked. But
I did like
it was
the creatures.
It was all about feeling, because the creatures were just so cool. It was sort of like playing Doom.
Yeah, it was like
on
one of those
acid.
video games. Yeah, I can see that.
You know, it was playing Doom on acid is what it was.
So my favorite part was when the guy he was separated by those. They dumped him down the thing,
right?
The trash thing or whatever it was, and he was in those pile of rubber pieces.
Right,
like,
exactly.
I mean, there was a rubber head there. I'm like, really?
It
was like rubber body parts. But anyway, so I like the part where he gets separated by them, and all the creatures are chasing him, and he's running all these different directions.
Right.
So I like that part, but that's like the last 10 minutes of the movie I liked.
I wanted to bring up something. When we have been talking before, and I've been saying that movie blood never looks like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
This blood looks like real blood.
Yeah.
But did you notice what it did? It looked like a graphic cartoon in a way.
Yeah.
which
like
is
a video game.
like a video game, but that's what happens when you have opaque blood that isn't clear. I mean, the clear, that is what blood looks like. Mm-hmm. You can't see through blood in reality, but movie blood you always can see. Is because the thing is the visceral quality of thick red blood literally looks like a piece of red paper. Mm-hmm. You know, and did that not give you that feeling as you're looking at all this blood? And it looks like it comes out of a paint jar, and yet I can tell you that it did look like real blood. Just didn't look like movie blood, but it did have a graphic cartoon quality to it.
So the blood looked good, real, but the body parts look fake.
Right, exactly.
No,
but it was hyper graphic and
it was like steampunk zombie. Whatever.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, and I love steampunk. I really do. Steampunk stories to me, China medievally, amazing. You know. By the way, there's a film that's going to be coming up called Mortal Engines.
Oh.
It's
Mortal Engines. Okay.
It's directed by Peter. It's produced by Peter Jackson's company. Has a cool trailer, but it has a very, very, very steampunk feel to it. You know, and is an echo of the look of this film, you know?
Yeah. Well, don't you think that the shakiness and the out of focus kind of takes away from the whole thing? Like,
I didn't like the overall washed out look of it. They chose to give it an overall look that did not appeal to me, but I was so blown away by how good the art direction was and how. And the creatures.
I like the sets.
I didn't care about the rest of it. You know,
if you re-edited this movie and only had the creatures,
right,
I would probably like it.
But it follows well with Mick's rule of like I could take 20 minutes out of any film.
Well, I was 6 minutes into this movie and I wrote down, "Oh shit, is this another Gray Night?"
Oh wow!
But that was probably before the creatures started appearing.
Yeah. Only Nazis would think of something like this.
There were some scenes where you couldn't tell what was going on. It was very old school, like where you talking like old like 30s,
right?
Because you see some violent attack happening off camera,
right?
And then you only see the aftermath,
right?
Like, it was like
you see, but the thing is the acting of the crew, of the Russian crew, I think part of it is they were trying to bring out that Russian mistrust of each other.
Right.
You know, which is difficult because that Russian mistrust of each other, even if that really happened, it's not an interesting. Right. There's no inui to each other. There's no compassion, no really caring about each other, and I'm not 100% sure that that's the way any army actually exists.
Right.
I mean, armies exist in small groups that trust to each other's lives, and
unless you're a Frankenstein's Army.
Well, yeah, but
so it was very. I did think it was kind of campy. I do enjoy stuff like that. It got really ridiculous with the guy with the propeller.
Yeah, now that was awesome.
But I like that. That was awesome.
That was awesome. Right.
So like I said, it's like I like the last third.
So you
of the
were
movie.
torn. I
was really bored actually for the first third of the movie. It was like really. Just,
it was a little bit. Yeah.
And then
but you know what? I think I liked World War II. Look
I do
of
too.
Things, probably maybe a little bit better than you do. I
don't know. Maybe.
I would die for.
I like World War II stuff.
I love. I just love that overall look. And you know what? I might point out this that in the United States you would never have been able to get that look,
right?
Because the leftover equipment from that period of time, they had so much junk that obviously was from at least the 50s.
Yeah.
That it just looks so
There was one
cool.
radio that looked very 60s-ish, though, like the little handheld one.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like 1963, I was thinking. So there was one major flaw. Like, if I'm a camera operator,
right,
and all this shit starts happening, I think I would just drop the camera and run away, basically. Or I would just drop the camera. Why would you sit there?
Well, one thing that I would point out, though, is that, and we found out about this, and maybe you missed this point,
Probably did.
Was that he
probably fell asleep.
That he started out by looking like the ineffective camera man that was supposed to be following this group around, and then we find out that he's actually a captain.
Yeah.
And that he's the one that's actually driving the entire operation. And so I think in terms of that, his
I didn't understand
job,
why he had to capture it though. Like, I guess he was documenting it for his
right. He was absolutely. His whole concept was that he had to be documenting it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, I guess if I'm getting attacked by my last thought is to hold the camera steady. Is what I'm saying.
And all I'm saying is this: I think that there was that they had better than most found footage films reasons for having images of it, because look at all the cameras that we had, in World War II, and really, in all honesty, why did we have such great footage of World War II? I mean, it was just a decision. It's a command decision that the cameras had to be rolling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself but. And obviously, we had a lot of footage of the Civil War. It was important, you know. Not so important in World War I.
No.
There's very little actual footage of
tons
World
of
War
Vietnam stuff, obviously, because that was more recent too. I mean,
right. But and then look at all the stuff that we had that we didn't have of the European wars that we were in.
So
Milos. I can't think. Yugoslavia, all of that stuff. We have very little, and I think that one of the problems is that we didn't have any propaganda behind. We didn't have footage of it. We didn't know what was going on, and we weren't very behind it.
Right.
And
makes me wonder if some countries do have footage of it, though. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
obviously they would probably.
Yeah, I'm just saying it changes from war to war depending on what kind of tactic you're using with the public. I mean, think of all the people that we had that were actually in units in Vietnam at the beginning of Vietnam, in the Desert Wars, right?
Yeah. Well, World War II, you had like the propaganda machine behind Germany.
Yeah.
So there was film was a big deal there.
That, and we wanted to film. We had our own propaganda machine going. We wanted to.
And both countries are very technical,
right?
Like with films, for sure. Filmmaking.
Exactly. Yeah. So the thing is I was completely comfortable with the fact that there was filming of this.
There were certain points where I felt like I was watching it like it was a recording of like a bad haunted house. Like,
well, the funny thing.
I mean, I lost the whole feeling that I was in a game. And I was like I'm videotaping a haunted house.
That's true.
The guys coming out like, "Arr!"
There was a continuousness to the filming that could never existed.
Of course,
that would have been a modern thing.
I will tell you one of my favorite parts, though. Actually, it was probably my favorite part when they said to the nurse, they're like, "If you get the helmet off, we'll let you live." And then she pulls it off, and the brain comes out.
And the brain comes out with it.
So
yeah,
that was
that didn't
awesome.
even make any sense.
But I like that scene though, just because it was ridiculous.
Did you notice that? Did you notice the woman with the teddy bear showed to her? That was his mom. That was supposed to be his mom.
Oh, I didn't catch that. See, I
see. You just checked out.
I was too busy.
You don't even count.
No, I was checked out probably.
Yeah,
but I was interested in the creatures. Whatever creature came on, I'm like, oh, that's cool. How I like the creatures. I was interested in how they made like the lobster guy.
The creatures were just amazing. And by the way, they were all designed by the director. Director designed.
Oh wow!
Also storyboarded the entire film and designed all the creatures in it.
Oh, and the right side of the brain is the.
That was the silliest thing I have ever thought of.
Left is communist, right is Nazi.
Right, that was the silliest thing I have ever.
And the doctor actually wasn't a bad actor. He was probably one of the better ones.
No, he was. You know what? He brought an odd clarity to it that the film hadn't had up until that point. It's funny because we had all these, just things, and we don't know what the story is behind any of them. And then there was definitely a change in the whole film. When he comes in,
that's where I started getting into it a little bit more.
Yeah, well, just because he was actually, he was your Greek chorus. He was kind of,
and then you're wondering what the other guy's going to do, and then the camera broke, like lens cracked.
Right.
Then all of a sudden it was fixed. I'm like, okay.
Well, didn't you see him turn?
I guess they took it off.
Yeah, they turned it.
Yeah, they turned it. Okay.
They turned it to another lens. Yeah.
But I was just like,
I thought that the overall washed out look of it was terrible. I could have done with something else.
I guess I had a problem with the shakiness, the out of focus, the found footage look, and then the fact that it was washed out. And then,
I would have dug it if it was in black and white.
But then again, how would those creatures look if it was really clean and clear and?
Oh no, there's no doubt about it. But the thing
black
is,
and white might be the way to go.
What I'm just saying is
there's sepia or sepia.
Yeah, sepia. There's
amazing.
many choices to go towards. I just don't necessarily. I did not enjoy that particular manipulation of the overall look. But the sets, the production
the set design. Well, see, I could see why you like that part of it.
Yeah.
But for me, I thought overall it was pretty terrible. I mean,
well,
I don't know. I would give it like an average rating, I guess, because I did get into the creatures and that I did like the sets. But so if they didn't talk, if it was a silent movie and it was black and white,
okay. Here's what I'm going to say.
They cut out half of the
This
dialogue.
is how good the production design is. I'm going to give it a 3.4, and I thought the acting was horrendous.
Wow.
I thought that these guys didn't. You absolutely couldn't figure out why any of them were even going in the same direction at any given time.
Yeah.
But
some of the stuff didn't make sense, but you didn't really have to take it too seriously.
It's not exactly the point.
No, not really. It's all about the creatures.
No, but it was about the creatures and it was about the look. And even the look kind of, there was something that kind of bothered me a little bit about it.
But it lost its way a little bit, though, you think? With like the story, like trying to crowbar stories in there?
Yeah, are you sure that you didn't lose your way?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, why?
You know what?
Why are we focused on this?
War is hell.
And if the guy, if a guy takes me down to a basement and he just disappears, I would chase his ass and bring him back down. But that's just me.
I don't have an opinion on that.
Alexa, what is your rating?
3.14.
I'd give it.
Anyway,
I'm actually going to give it a generous. I feel this is very generous. 2.4.
What?
So if this didn't have any creatures in it, I'd probably give it a 1. So I have to like account for that basically. Like the creatures brought it up from a 1, in my opinion.
Way past a 1. You're giving me gas.
So for once we disagree. This is good. But I actually don't really disagree with the fact that it was a good production. Like the design was good and the creatures were awesome. But that's about as far as I go.
To me, it had all the right flaws.
It didn't need to be so long.
All the right flaws.
It could have been a lot shorter.
No, I really enjoyed it. We were I was just talking to somebody at a meeting of the 72. There's a 72-hour film challenge coming up, and I meet with them because I like to laugh at them. And they all ask me, questions about this and that and the next thing. And I think that we were talking about the setup of effects, and I enjoyed the element of this that was so practical. And there was some great reasons that it could be practical. Part of it was that it was such a assault on your senses. There was an aspect to it that was assaultive kind of look, and so you could get away with a very sloppy kind of thing going on, right? There's always reasons that the gag in your mind works. And in this case, I think that the gag of the whole film, the creatures and everything, they would not have worked if they were in a clean art gallery. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just would have looked out of place and funky. But the fact that they are in this funky background and stuff sets it up. And somebody had to think about that. When you're a production designer, you're bringing together things as a whole. And the same thing goes with effects. I was just sitting talking to somebody, and we were talking about the elements that set up effects.
Story time. It's story time with Mick. 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 Story time with Mick.
that effects work as a sequence of elements. And I think that in the 80s, working with practical effects, knowing the limitations that you had, that we were getting very, very, very good at sequencing and understanding what it took to set up a story. And I'll lay out a couple of really common ones just from the Nightmare on Elm Streets, especially particularly as I, have written a book about Nightmare on Elm Street called Behind the Screams. We'll talk about that one. We'll talk about the sequence where the theater is, she's being sucked into the, and basically we're using gravity to make that gag work. So we go into the Rialto Theater, the actual theater, and we kind of, we then took the balcony, and she goes up to the balcony, and she's in a dream in the balcony. She's sitting with her popcorn. She's sitting with her Coke, and we see the way that we tell the little story that leads into the big story is we see the Coke spilling out, and then we see the popcorn spilling out of and going straight forward. And of course, the way that we're doing it with that is we're messing with gravity. We have that whole balcony we have built. We're back at the stage, and they're built on a tractor, and they're being lifted up to 90 degrees. And a stunt person has replaced Lisa Wilcox as Alice, and she is now falling across the seats. And there are the other Elm Street children that have died are all completely fastened and belted into their seats. And we see them, and they're just eating popcorn normally and doing stuff normally, and she looks like she's being sucked towards the screen. We're using gravity to do that. And what I was talking about there is how we're going from one thing to the other, and each shot is setting up the next shot. When she goes all the way down in our set, she's down to the edge of the balcony. She's holding on to the edge of the balcony and being, that's 90 degrees, and she's kicking. The next shot is of her kicking, and now we're underneath her. And we're not actually underneath her. She's actually being held by a crane. She's holding on to the edge of the balcony that's suspended underneath the crane, and the ceiling has the beams from the same duplicates of the theater ones down the side of the building. So you have 8 sets of those beams down a 90-foot side of a building, and when she lets go of that edge, it looks like she's flying over your head and being sucked into the screen. Right. And so we're using gravity all the way along. And basically what she did is we had stretched a piece of blue paper over the airbag, and she breaks through the paper and hits the airbag. Oh, that's awesome. And so the paper is then used as the blue screen. Yeah. That you see.
That's a great scene. Yeah,
it is a great scene, and
except for when the people in the background, her hair moved down. I caught that like the 10th time I saw that movie. I think the hair moved.
Yeah,
down.
Right. Well,
it's a blonde girl.
You're the one that pointed out to me that you could still see the cable of the truck. So, bastard.
Well, I don't know. I actually, after seeing something many times, I start noticing little details. Like I start nitpicking. I think.
Well, now get this. 30 years.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It took me freaking 30 years, and I'd never seen that cable.
There's people that are asking how that theater scene's done. Like people in the industry ask
I swear, I just explained that today to somebody. Yeah. On a text after that guy that what's the name of that podcast? It's gone right out of my head. Scott Paulson's Paulson.
Chop Block?
Chop Block.
Yeah, it was Chop Block. Chop Block.
Yeah, Chop Block. That's it.
Chop Block.
Now Chop Block. He writes me and he says, As well as I didn't get a chance to ask you on air, but there was a scene on Nightmare on Elm Street 4 where Alice was being sucked into the movie screen in the movie theater, and the scene where it looks like she's actually being sucked into the screen in the frame, that you guys are still sitting down and it doesn't look like a split screen. How did you guys do that?
Right. Well, the guy that the Chattering podcast.
The Chattering podcast,
he said something about it too.
Yeah, Nicholas.
He said that was one of his favorite scenes, and he had no idea.
Yeah, he had no idea how we did it. We used gravity, people. We used gravity.
But yeah, I didn't know about what confused me about that was the part where she falls through the screen. So you just explained that to me.
Right.
So now it's clear.
And I have to tell you the funny thing. Here's the great thing about that story is that we went there. We literally went out with an entire second unit that was enormous. Went out with a stunt person, and we filmed at a place called the Beverly Hills. It was on Highland Boulevard in Hollywood, and it was called the Beacons Beverly Hills Fourier Storage Unit. And what it was essentially was and I think it was a 8-story refrigerator.
Wow.
Basically, it was a concrete building, had no windows, and it wasn't. I swear on the front it had no windows, and it said that Beacon Storage, but there were then 3 other sides that were just concrete. Literally just 8+ stories of concrete, and that's what made it absolutely perfect. Is then we didn't have to paint it, we didn't have to do anything. All we had to do is take 2 huge cables and we stacked 8 beams down at the base of it and pulled the cables up.
Oh,
so the cable would go up about 15 feet and then pick up a beam and then pick up the next beam. Wow. And they were painted with the same finial look, that the concrete beams were on at the theater. So we had the perfect opportunity for this, for us to achieve that fake. And it still to this day remains something you've never seen, because it just hardly even makes sense. It looks exactly like she's getting sucked into it, and nobody knows how it was done.
That's great.
A pretty good use of gravity.
Wow.
So anyway, there's a shout out to Scott Paulson. Good question. It is a question that I do literally get once a week these days. On the same shot.
People don't seem to listen to our podcast. That's what the moral of the story is.
Yeah. It's like how did we stop the truck, right? They want to know how we did the truck, and there's so many of those on Nightmare on Elm Street 4. It's like how'd you
stop the truck? Yeah. Just look very closely.
Just look very closely.
The answer is there.
The answer is there. It actually is.
But no. I mean, I didn't notice that for like how many times?
Well, the thing is
because
it's a perfect scene.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's perfectly cut.
You're not looking at that.
You're not looking at that. You're literally. The thing is it's almost short enough, and it's done. It's not done in hyper slow motion or anything like that, and you want to see what the hell happened, because it's it's not every day that you get to see something so completely hit nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't wait till we're talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
3?
Is it too soon to say that?
Too soon to say that?
Because the book just came out for 4. I'm already talking about 3.
Yeah, well,
you got to do a book about 3.
Yeah, well, I am doing a book about 3. It's gonna happen, guys. It's gonna happen. So there you go. So that's story time with Mick.
That's awesome.
And we graded the film.
Yes, we actually did our job.
We've done our job. Any other thoughts about that? I just that film just made me feel so cool. Yeah. I mean, for some reason,
awesome. So when are you writing a book about Kazaam? I want to hear the Shaq interview.
Well, that was hardly even necessary.
I know. I cut that out. I was just fucking with you.
I will tell you a funny story about Kazaam. When I was... I was heading down the hallway of the stage. The stage and the offices were in the same building. We were on the second floor, and I was like the imitation of. I've seen people imitate my look of walking, which was I would lean forward and basically try and catch up with my head. It was like pure business walk. And I would be paying attention to like papers or something that was in my hand and stuff. And I'm heading down the hallway. I'm heading for Bob's office, the production designer or the producer, and I vaguely am aware of somebody going, "Oh, hi, Mick. Hey, I'd like to introduce you." And all of a sudden, ow! And here's what had happened. I had run into Shaq's hand.
Oh.
He had put his hand up
to shake,
but I was stooping a little bit and probably moving pretty fast, and he kind of miscalculated, and because the natural place of where his arm bent was about at the height of my eye at the time, I ran directly into that digit of his finger, smacked me right in the eye.
Wow.
Yeah, I ran into Shaq's arm.
It's actually at that time he was in really good shape too. I mean, not that he's not in shape now, but I'm saying he was playing every day.
Yeah. So
I would not want to run into that to his hand. No.
Yeah, it's really weird because there was a thing that absolutely everybody did, because in my office we had a pair of his shoes, and because we needed them for relationships to like certain gags and stuff, and they would just sat on this desk, and you walk in, and absolutely everybody that walked into that office for the first time had to lay their hand down, their arm down into that shoe. It was like, you always had to lay your hand flat to see if you're, and I know for a fact that shoe was exactly the length from there, the tip of my finger to my elbow.
Wow.
Fit absolutely dead flat inside that shoe.
You put like a little toddler in there or something.
Yeah, right. You could have. So, anyway, there you go. So this is
That was a double story time.
It was a double story time.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
See what happens when I say dumb things. It turns into a great story.
Wait, when do you not say
That's
dumb
what
things?
I'm here for.
Yeah. Well, you're doing your job really well.
Except for the fact that this movie wasn't that great. Alexa, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. No worries. Anytime.
Live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.
This is Kurt Thomas along with Mick Strawn. Thank you for listening to the Dream Warrior Review. If you have any questions or just have feedback for our show, we welcome them at dreamwarriorreview@gmail.com. Of course, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter as well. As always, please follow us and tell your friends about us too. Who is Freddy Krueger?
Frederick Charles Freddy Krueger is a character from the A Nightmare on Elm Street film series. He first appeared in Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street as a burnt serial killer who uses a glove armed with razors to kill his victims in their dreams, causing their deaths in the real world as well. In the dream world, he is a powerful force and almost completely invulnerable.